I don't know about you guys, but it's really starting to feel that elected Republicans and other prominent conservative voices don't have very good criticisms to levy against Kamala Harris, because the only thing we've been hearing a lot about the past few days is how she's a DEI hire. So let's go ahead and get a taste of what these guys are actually saying, starting with Larry Kudlow.
And of course, her whole history is DEI, diversity, exclusion, and equity. I mean, inclusion and equity. I mean, what does that tell you? It's totally woke and it's anti-cops.
If you're going to make a criticism, Larry, you should probably get it right. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is what these people are referring to. Let's go ahead and look at Jesse Waters making the same criticism.
The only reason Kamala's in the White House is because of the DEI deal Biden cut with Bernie to seal the nomination.
I really don't know what he's talking about, but it's just more of the same from these prominent conservative voices. Now we have an elected official from Tennessee, Tim Burchett. Let's go ahead and see what he has to say. Oh, sorry about that.
Do you think that her just being her profile, Harris's profile, as the first African-American woman who could be the president, that could make it appealing to a lot of voters?
I always just say put the best player in. I mean, we've got a DEI hire in here, and Biden said, first off, he said he's going to hire a black female for vice president, and that he just skipped over. What about white females?
Just more of the same here. So what are these guys actually trying to say? They're trying to say that Kamala Harris is a black woman, and therefore she's not qualified to be the vice president or even the president. We call this a racist dog whistle because that is how these people use it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion was meant to help people from disadvantaged backgrounds, whether it's your race, ethnicity, or your gender, get into positions that they are qualified for, but might be held back from due to some exigent circumstances or different racism that may exist. That's why we call this a racist dog whistle. Anytime there is a person of color or a woman or both in positions of power and they don't like them, this is the criticism they levy. They're trying to say that because that Kamala Harris is a black female, that she is not qualified. But that just is not the case. So today we're going to go over Kamala Harris's actual qualifications. We know she's highly educated. We know she was a lawyer. She's been vice president. She was a senator. So let's go ahead and take a look at Kamala Harris's history. Let's see her actual qualifications, starting off with her education.
Harris later enrolled at Howard University, a historically black college in Washington, D.C., where she studied political science and economics. She then returned to the Bay Area for law school.
Nothing too controversial here. Went to college, then went to law school. And then she became the district attorney in 2003 of San Francisco. Let's go ahead and take a look at that.
In 2003, she was elected the city's district attorney.
To be a prosecutor is to really be engaged in one of the most noblest professions that anyone could do and have.
Her career in law enforcement helped propel her to higher office.
Again, what is wrong with having a prosecutor as our vice president or our potential next president? I would say this is a good qualification to have. She understands how the legal system works. We want people who understand our laws to be implementing or writing new laws. These are the types of qualifications we should expect from our elected officials. And while she was district attorney, she was able to implement rehabilitation programs. I think this is also a good idea. Let's go ahead and take a look at that really quick.
She also championed providing a path for some nonviolent, first-time drug offenders to get education and job training to prevent them from reoffending.
When we're talking about serious and violent crime, lock them up. But when we're talking about nonviolent crime, that is actually the crime that is occupying the bulk of our public resources and beds in our state prison system. And we need to have a meaningful system to reduce the likelihood that that revolving door will continue.
I think this is something that we should aspire to. When people go to jail or they go to prison, we should have programs in place that help them with life skills, job training, whatever it may be, so they aren't reoffending. This is a good way to keep criminals off the streets. We give them productive measures or training in jail, and then they have the skills necessary to go on with a more productive life when they are done with jail. These programs are great. We should have more of these. These have been very, very successful in other countries, and we should aspire to do more of them here in the United States. But let's go ahead and move on. She was elected as the California Attorney General in 2010.
She's California's
In 2010, Harris was elected Attorney General of California, overseeing the largest state justice department in the U.S. Harris's office took on predatory for-profit colleges and also secured a nearly $20 billion settlement with banks following the 2008 foreclosure crisis.
I think this is another excellent qualification. She was going after the banks that took advantage of people during the 2008 recession. This is awesome. She was holding powerful and wealthy people accountable for screwing over the little guy. She went after for-profit colleges that were scamming people, kind of like Donald Trump's university. These are the things that would qualify someone to be our next president. I don't know why the DEI is like the number one go-to. At least be creative in your criticism. We know that Kamala Harris was then elected to the Senate in a landslide back in 2016. Let's go ahead and take a look at that really fast.
In 2016, Harris was elected to the U.S. Senate in a landslide, becoming only the second black woman to serve as a U.S. Senator.
I intend to fight for truth and transparency and trust.
Again, we have a former senator serving as our current vice president who is now running to be the next president. All of these things added together, these are the types of qualifications that we should expect from our elected leaders, right? We want somebody who knows our laws. We want somebody who stands up for the little guy. We want somebody who has experience prosecuting criminals. We want somebody who's going to be able to enforce our laws in a reasonable way, right? These are the things that I look for in an elected official, especially when we're talking about President of the United States. We know she's now vice president, and she has been a key player in helping Biden pass some of his key legislation. Let's go ahead and take a look at that really quick.
And with the Senate evenly split between Democrats and Republicans,
The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the bill, as amended, is passed.
Harris's tie-breaking vote was key in many of the Biden administration's legislative victories, including the sweeping Inflation Reduction Act, which was America's most ambitious effort yet to tackle climate change. Harris also took a leading role in efforts to reduce gun violence, overseeing the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention.
I think these are all great qualifications. Now, if you want to say that there are things that Kamala Harris has done that you don't like while she was holding these positions, that is fine. But at least make substantive criticisms. Don't just throw out the racist dog whistle and say she's unqualified because she's a black woman. That is pathetic. Republicans should know better. It is 2024, for goodness sakes. I'm getting really sick and tired of elected leaders still leading with these racist attacks against black women. That is just crazy to me. There are things that Kamala Harris has done that you can go after her on. She didn't seek the death penalty for somebody who killed a cop. She was criticized for that. She didn't take a stance she didn't take a stance for a bill that would have required independent review if a police officer killed somebody. She was also known for trying to keep prisoners locked up longer than they were supposed to be after the Supreme Court ruled that the California's overcrowding was like unconstitutional, I think. That is a legitimate criticism. That is awful. The Supreme Court said that these people needed to be released, and she tried to keep them in jail. That is a huge mark against her. And some people feel that she hasn't done enough on the border. But I don't know if I take those criticisms seriously, because we hear that from Republicans no matter what Democrat is in office. And I don't know how much control she had over those policies anyway. So if you're going to make attacks against Kamala Harris, make them substantive. I have plenty critiques of Kamala Harris. We should expect more from our elected officials. Leading with these racist attacks is unacceptable, and we should call it out every single time we see it, because this is unacceptable in 2024. So that's going to do it for me on this one, folks. If you got anything out of this video, if you could remember to smash that like button and hit subscribe, maybe share it with a friend or two, I'd very much appreciate that. If you think I got something wrong, or if you disagree with me about something, feel free to drop a comment below. And if you want to learn about Trump's connections to Project 2025, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. And I will see you guys on the next one.